When I was a young boy, I was convinced that there was something wrong with me. Like, I didn't fit in, I didn't belong. Basically, that is my memory of that experience. And I've developed coping mechanisms. I've worked really, really hard to deserve basic human needs, such as, validation, being seen, being valued, being appreciated. And I've gone through different stages of inner work, and fast forward 30 years later, everything became much clearer. I actually feel healed. There is no hard feelings I experience towards people around me, even though when I look at that period, if anything, there was something wrong with people around me who were not healed, who were full of reactivity, who are still basically suffering inside. And when I look at the whole picture from the current perspective, I can see that we are all the same. Obviously, we experience different degrees of loneliness, of not belonging, but we share the same human needs. And the more I practiced basically being myself, as we could call that, just whatever I am, I want to be me. The more I practiced that, and the more I shared that openly, I could observe that there are more people like me, and that was so refreshing. And whenever I come across a person like that, it feels like returning home. And today I'd like to present on my small YouTube channel Bailey Schildbach, who recently has been my favorite influencer, favorite YouTuber, because she openly says about the things that feels like being home again, like reconnecting with myself. So without further ado, let me share a few quotes I have cut from the interview I watched yesterday, even though she has her own channel and I've been following her for a while now. It was actually even better to listen to her during the conversation. We are performing differently during the conversation. I feel that the same way about myself. Even if she actually even says about that in the interview, that it is weird. Right now I'm talking to the camera, there is nobody in the room, and it feels weird. But we have to start somewhere. So let me share a few quotes from Bailey.
I feel like a lot of these things weren't talked about when I was growing up, especially in the realm of vulnerability and authenticity, and especially like feelings of self-doubt and like, am I on the right path? Am I doing this right? Or just like, I don't want to do this. This is hard, or whatever it is. It's not talked about. So I felt so lonely growing up, especially as someone with really big feelings, especially as someone that feels really deeply and has like so many thoughts mulling around their brains. Everyone's always like, you're overthinking. Stop thinking that way, Bailey. Like, stop feeling so big. And I was like, but I can't turn this off. And so I know for a fact that there's other people out there like me, like you are literally, you feel like me, you think like me. And so it's like, there's not a lot of people that validate that experience, especially for kids growing up. And so I always felt like crazy. I felt like I was literally crazy because I'm like, maybe I'm just feeling too much all the time. Maybe this isn't how I should do. Maybe I should turn it off somehow. But I finally was like, no, I'm just going to talk about it. And it's actually built up a really nice community of people who feel the same way, who think big, feel big. And I'm like, yeah, this is what being human is about.
This is what human being is about. I love that because that's my main point in this video. That is actually quite simple. We just make it more complicated, make it more difficult. We destroy the basic pure human experience of seeing another human being for what they are, and let's validate each other. Let's stay open and let's stay curious. And that is more than enough. Let's not just build a community. Let's build communities, because there is actually much more people who are resonating with this message, or that this message is resonating with them. I am not sure about what is correct English. However, what I want to say is that we need more communities, because what Alex and Bailey in that interview were talking about, that's highly resonating with me. However, I probably have no access to their community. I am not interested, in the long term especially, I am not interested in parasocial relationship, writing comments and probably not being seen, not being heard. And that's why many small YouTube channels comes into the picture. This is how I actually made most of my interviews so far. Probably if I approached Sana, if I approached Anastasia, and if I approached Nolan, if they had 100,000 subscribers, they wouldn't even see my message, and that is a great opportunity. And then we can go even further and look into our personal lives, and that is my main goal, to create moderate number of people around me into the community based on that values, based on openness, curiosity, acceptance, and basically I understand that we will also, openness and curiosity itself, they are not enough to create a strong community for myself. We need to share more values, or more interests, and that is perfectly fine to create many communities based on that fundamental level of basic human needs understanding, if you know what I mean.
No. I love the ramble, because it's that's you being authentic. That's you sharing what you're feeling. That's literally what we're talking about. Never apologize for how you're feeling or what you want to share. It just goes along with authenticity, because it's some people, they don't have a lot they want to share. They don't have a lot of feelings they want to share, but there are people who, that, like I said, they feel very deeply. And it's are we supposed to hide that? Are we supposed to put a mask up over that? And I feel like that's the problem, because there's so many people that have so much beauty that they want to share to the world, or so many impressive, authentic, inspirational thoughts that could be channeled into the world that could help a lot of people, but they're no one wants to hear this. I shouldn't say this. I should say something that's going to impress people. I should say something that's better. And it's we second guess ourselves, and that second guessing is hiding so much beauty from the world.
Yeah, I am aware that many people don't have this desire to share a lot. They don't feel safe around openness like that, and I have experienced that, that this is not for me, I prefer to stay under my umbrella or under my mask, I don't want to be so vulnerable, open, and that is fine. I respect that. And what I want to say is that I'm not going against people who are not ready, but I don't want to go against what is deep inside of me, this beauty that Bailey was talking about, That's just it's not a matter of courage anymore for me. It's a matter of necessity.
Yeah, and I mean, that is the structure of it, and it's a job, and there are certain things you have to follow to get to that job. So I'll never look down on the ballet industry and be oh God, they forced me to be this. I think the ballet industry is becoming a lot more inclusive, which I appreciate, but there is a certain level of the old school techniques that are still in it that make it really hard to be yourself and also be in ballet, and also be healthy and be in ballet. There's a certain level of perfectionism and rigidity and routine that you have to follow, or at least I did, to get to where you want to be in that industry. And it messes with your head a lot, which I feel is why I swung the opposite direction with YouTube, where I'm I'm gonna talk about everything and I don't care.
That's a very common path for many people to finally let go and to finally heal, or at least start and continue the process of healing and letting go on a daily basis. Fast-paced environment that may lead to pressure, that is full of pressure, and may lead to suffering, but also may lead to liberation. Because, that's a very common path that we basically very often have to go through enough suffering to finally let go, And that was the case for me as well. In sports gambling, eating disorders, that's my path. And even though it has nothing to do with ballet, it has many similarities.
Yeah, I think that the sooner you start, the sooner you learn like the baseline of where you are for things. Because some people, it's like they're really, really talented in what they do. And the first thing they make of whatever they make is like the best thing ever that they've made. That's the exception, not the rule. For a lot of us, it's like you just have to start, and then creativity is a practice. So it's like you have to practice it every single day. And soon enough, you learn your routine in it. You learn what you like, what you don't like, how you create something good, how you create something bad. And I mean, even for me and YouTube, like I started back in like 2018 or something. Like I've wanted to do this for a really long time, but I would like make the perfect little vlogs, and I would like do all these angles, and I would have like a little like ring light, and I'd do all this stuff. And it got like 10 views. And it wasn't about the views. I was just having fun. You know what I mean? But I was like, whatever. And then when I finally restarted this channel, I was like, fuck it. No light, no nothing. I'm just going to be sitting on my couch. I don't give a fuck at this point. Like, I'm just going to do me. And if the world hates it, I don't care.
Good for you. Good for you.
I was in such a place where I'm like, I do not care. I just need to be creative because I'm like losing my mind over here. And it was just for me. And when I did that, I noticed like people were resonating with it because of the authenticity of it. I feel like creativity really thrives in authenticity, but creativity and authenticity are a practice. And if you don't know who you are, then it's not going to shine through in your creativity. So you have to like practice yourself over and over and over and find like what your spark is in it. And then slowly that'll start to show to others.
I love the idea of creativity being a daily practice, and basically even being me is a daily practice. Not putting my mask on at the beginning of the day is a daily practice. And even though sometimes it doesn't feel like it does anything for me, in the long term, I can clearly see it does, you know? It's a humble grind work of just meeting myself at the beginning of the day and asking myself, how are you? Are you okay with your life? Are you happy with your life? What could we change together, you know? Just befriending myself in that way, and then maybe putting it into words or any other way to express myself. That's a daily practice, and I love the work.
There's also people you don't want to learn from.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people come to that realization that like not every adult is actually a good adult. That's like something that I feel like, especially if you grew up with like a negative parent, or like you said, like you go back and meet someone that you're like, oh God, I wish I had you in my life. And you're like, no. Like, oh my goodness. You definitely learn that some people never heal. They never healed in their life. They just kind of went through, they didn't learn any lessons. They just kind of stayed at the maturity of a teenager their whole life. And the reason for that is unknown to us. Everyone doesn't mature for different reasons. So it's like to each their own, obviously, like if that was their life, if that's who they are, that was their life, right? But there are, like, I had to go back and realize that most of the role models in my life, whether they were, you know, ballerinas or they were actresses or they were like teachers or whatever they were, a lot of them had very negative views on the world that got in me way too young. And I was like, oh, wait. All of my beliefs, all of my negative beliefs were just projections from the adults in my life who never healed that got implanted in me at a young age. And I'm like, that's why I think the way I do. That's why I do this. That's why I do that. Because I think that human beings are a lot less complicated than we think we are, because we absorb a lot from the people around us. So whoever we were around, we think like them, we act like them, we behave like them. And it's a lot of unlearning when you're healing. It's a lot of being like, okay, that's what was normal, but that's not what was healthy, you know? And it's kind of like how you were saying, how if you had grown up around your dad, then it's like maybe you would be shadowboxing dogs. You know what I mean? Like, it's like there's certain, like, not to make a joke out of it by any means. That's a horrible situation. But it's like, if you had, then there would have been certain implements of him within you that you would have to unlearn later in life. The same way that if you have any negative role models or negative parents growing up, it's like, you literally have to like pull that shit out of you. And it's horrifying, but it's part of healing.
Absolutely. I love the wisdom, and I love how simple it sounds, because we are realizing it is actually very simple. And that is, from my perspective, one of the final stages of the inner work or healing or whatever you want to call it. That, you know, not having hard feelings towards people who wronged you, who maybe didn't educate you as you would wish to educate others, you know? It's just like the deeper acceptance and understanding the cause and effect process, you know? We are part of this process, you know? It does never stop. It never stops, basically. It doesn't end, you know? It just continues, and it's part of the process. And this deeper acceptance allows me to find deeper peace in just accepting how we are swimming in this water, you know, and just loving people and accepting as they are, you know, in all situations. And that is so refreshing, and that is bringing so much peace and so much gratitude. And, you know, I'm ending this morning work and I go to outside world with big amount of gratitude, big amount of joy, you know, and I can share that love basically with others, not rejecting all the uncomfortable truths that we could talk about at any point, at any day, you know, but just this basic attitude. It's worth sharing and it's worth realizing as a daily practice. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for being here. I love you so much and I wish you have a great day.